Welcome back, everyone. And this is the podcast with Chandre Blaine. Recording this on a supposed to be a winter day, but it's 28 degrees. Great day for Muay Thai. Before you even start, you got a little sweat going. Body always prefers heat. Probably why it's the best to go train in Thailand every day of the year because it's hot there. I don't have any injuries that flare up. My knee it feels amazing on these days. It never hurts the day after, which is an important part of things. But besides that, I'm doing great. We are T minus a few days. It's Tuesday today, so we got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday weigh in. Saturdays is the fight. If you're not sure on the fight, it is a nice warm day in August 29th, and on the 2nd of September, in a few days, as I said, is going to be our fight. Not my fight, but Lekaya Hansi, one of my fighters. He's been pushing hard, and this is actually a rematch versus his previous opponent, Ezra Solomons. It's strange how things happen because Lekaya was supposed to fight actually a few weeks ago in TFP promotions, but unfortunately his opponent had issues. He went home and he had some visa issues, so he wasn't able to participate. So we stopped training for a bit, and then another gentleman, Ezra Solomons, had a fighter that also something happened there. I'm not actually sure what, so I can't give you the details at the moment. I'll come back to it, okay? His fighter pulled out for some reason, and I dropped the coach a message to see if we can jump in for a rematch. And luckily, all parties agreed that the rematch could take place. So now we are an unscheduled fight, but we had a full camp. We had enough time to jump in for training to have a full camp. We hit a 6-week camp. Sometimes, if it's the guy's first fight, I like to do a little bit of a longer camp because you got to find the breaking point of some of the guys, because in the fight, if they hit their breaking point in the fight, they're going to have trouble. They're going to get hurt, or they're going to get knocked out, or the fight's going to end prematurely. So we had a nice long camp, 6 weeks, good amount of time to get our guys working. We got strength training in, we got cardio in, everything was done. We tweaked our training a bit for this one. In the last fight, a little rundown of what happened. Lekaya's first actual fight in the ring. He's had an in-house before against another one of my students, both well matched up. The other guy was a little bit heavier but less experienced, and Lekaya was lighter but a little bit more experienced. So the fight worked out quite well. Lekaya jumped in for his first official Muay Thai at an amateur. So amateurs wear shin pads, literally take a cardboard box, and it's basically that thick, just so the guys don't cut each other open, basically, because in the amateur fights, in different organizations, different rules. But for our amateur sanctioned fights, if there's blood, the fight has to be stopped. That's just how it goes, because the guys are amateurs, and there still have to be quite strict rules for the guys that are just starting out. So they had shin pads on, elbow pads, which basically you still get the knock. If the guy elbows you, you'll feel everything, but you don't get cut again, so there's no blood. And then they were wearing 8-ounce gloves, which when you train, you want to train with a heavier glove, so that when you go to the fight, your hands feel like lightning. The glove is smaller, so when you punch, it goes through better, and so on and so on. So you always want to train with a little bit of a heavy weighted gloves, not excessive. So like, it's no point clapping a Rocky Balboa there in his fifth movie when he's a bit aged, and he's literally throwing like what looks to be 40-kilogram weights, uppercuts, and all these mad things, to knock the guy out. For the Muay Thai, you don't want to be too big. If you're too big, it's gonna consume so much oxygen that by the time you get to the second round, you're going to be tired. The first round you might be banging, but I mean, there's not only one round in the fight. It's consecutive rounds, and as you go, you're going to get more tired. So lean muscle mass is good. Increase in weight is good, but not too excessive. Like, there's no point a guy like Lakaya, he's fighting at 57 kgs, and with his opponent matching him, there's no point them to trying to push or lift or carry weight that is excessive, because that weight class is really fast. There is possibilities for knockouts, but at that weight class, the bantam weight, it is more to do with speed and precision. That's going to take you far. If you go for power, you're probably going to be a little bit slower, maybe a little bigger in weight, and you're going to carry more muscle, which is going to tire you out a bit. So Lakaya's first round, he went in. You know, if you've never had a fight, then you might not understand what it means to jump in there with another guy and train, and you know at a certain date you're going to fight. So you jump into the fight, things are happening, things are fast, things come at you like crazy, and if you're ill prepared, you're going to have a few problems right off the bat. Not that we were ill prepared, but Lakaya's first fight, his opponent had fights before. He does some boxing, and he comes from a strong boxing background with one of the coaches, his head coach, boxer. He has a Muay Thai coach, he has a strength coach. He's got everyone, but he came out boxing strong. And Lakaya was covering up a bit too much in the first round. In amateur fights, they want to see you fight. They don't. If you cover up too much, even if you're not taking shots, they might give you an 8 count just because you're not throwing. And as I said, they want to see you fight. So if you're not fighting, then so on. So the ref did come to me and he mentioned that, hey, look here, your guys has to do some work, because he's not going to be able to carry on like this. If it was a pro fight and Lakaya decided to do that, it wouldn't have been an issue. Pro guys have a lot more leeway. Basically, if they can stand on their 2 feet, they can fight. The judges will obviously check if they just take in shots the whole time. Obviously, the judges are going to score against you, but it doesn't mean to say that the fight has to be stopped. The same goes for the doctor. If it's a serious cut, then the doctor could jump in and could basically say, look, the fight's done. But if the guy can get up in a 10 count, if he gets to 8 and then he's only getting up, then the fight has to be called, because now he's taken too long. There's 2 seconds for him to get up. He needs to be on his feet and stable. And then usually the ref would say, or if you don't know what the ref usually does, they will usually tell you to step towards him. Maybe the ref will stand a bit off to an angle. So one, to see if you can see clearly that you need to sidestep. He might grab your gloves and see if they're firm. He's going to look into your eyes. So sometimes it happened to me. I was at World Champs, and a guy. It's funny because I just did the same thing to the previous 2 fighters the days before. He pulled my head down, kneed me in the face once or twice. I was wearing headgear, so I didn't feel it. It wasn't sore. I wasn't feeling like a bit off. But the ref looked into my eyes, and if he sees that even an inkling that you don't want to be there anymore, he's going to call it. This is at World Champs. So they're very strict on a few things. They call the fights quite quickly. If you're not fighting, they don't care. You must come in there ready to bomb. So Lakaya came out second round, and he was fighting, and I only laugh because it's amusing after the fact, but during, obviously, there's excitement going on, and the corners are going crazy, and you can't believe some of the stuff that happens. So Lakaya was standing on the ropes, and it was like a break, there was this, like just a lull in the action, and the ref said to Lakaya, come forward. And Lakaya kind of just stood there. So again, sometimes you hear things, you don't hear things, you see things, you don't see things. and he didn't step forward. So the ref, just like the ref should do, if you don't not listening to instructions, his first thought is, okay, you're not altogether there. So he gave Lakaya an 8 count, and obviously you don't want to get too crazy in between rounds and tune your fighter about that, because he's still got to go out there and fight again. So we left it for then, and afterwards we chatted about it, and even Lakaya was a bit he didn't understand what was going on. He couldn't hear the ref and so on and so on. But the thing is, you've got to be coherent as best as possible, because the ref is looking to enforce the rules. He's looking to make sure you don't get hurt, and obviously if you're not listening to him, then he's going to take it as, hey, well, this guy is not altogether there. He might be injured, or he maybe took a knock that he didn't see. So 8 count is what happens, because remember, when you jump in there, everything else falls away. You're there to fight. So if you're not fighting, then the ref it's in his rights to give you an 8 count or to instruct you XYZ. So the rest of the fight, I must say, Lakaya and Ezra's fight, it was a banger. I obviously love when my fighters fight, and I love it when both fighters engage. So Ezra and Lakaya were going for each other. But obviously, when it gets to the later rounds, or the tally of points or strikes count, if you're not throwing a strike, if the guy hits you and you don't strike back straight away, the points go to the other guy. If he hits you twice, then he gets 2 points. If you only hit him once, then your points is lower. And by the time the bell rings, the judges will write that accordingly. So third round came in. Lakaya finished the fight, but it went to unanimous decision to Ezra, which is exactly how I called it, because the first round he wasn't thrown as often, which happens, and the second round he got the 8 count. So unfortunately, how it works is that's penalization towards you, as in, for an 8 count you automatically get 9. You can't get a 10 in that round unless you give the other guy, or get the other guy to have an 8 count, or obviously if you knock him out, then it doesn't matter, because it doesn't go to the judges. So I always try to tell my fighters, don't let it go to the judges. Not that the judges are there to mess with you, but if you let it go to the judges and you in the fight, you can't see how many points is being tagged on you. If you hit him once and he hit you 3 times, you can't always see this. It's not for you to see as well. Your job is to fight. So the best thing for guys I can get them to remember is to fight. If the guy hits you, make sure you hit him. While the guy's hitting you, try to hit him. Okay, Muay Thai is not so much a evading sport. It's not the science of evasion, like you say, like boxing would be. If you take Mike Tyson into consideration, it's one of my favorite boxers. He used to dodge, and then he'd smack you out. So if Lakaya did that, was evading the shots and then came with a bomb back, that would be a different story. So, our second rematch is good. I always think it's good fun, because when there's a good fight, both guys want to engage, both guys want to fight. It's always exciting. Sometimes you get a fight, you'll find that the guys don't engage properly. They engage with one shot and they dance around each other, or they try to evade all the shots. The beauty that I find in the Muay Thai is that it is an attacking sport. You don't necessarily want to be defending yourself more than you attack. You can block, but then you must strike. So you look for that counter. Okay, so if the guy hits you, you want to look for the counter and hit him back twice. Okay, hopefully, or preferably, if he hits you with a good shot, and you can maybe block or parry it, or look at, my coach used to tell me as well, take the shot and give a harder counter back. If you see a shot come in and you can't block it, or you're like, look, I'm going to accept this one so I can give a harder one back, because now as you accept the shot, maybe you wind up a little bit. You don't want to wind up too much, but maybe you're like, okay, I'm going to brace hard, and then as he touches me, I'm going to throw this. So you might see like guys will throw elbows like that very often, or knees like that very often. They might take a shot and then bang in a big elbow or knee, and the elbow or knee from the counter is more effective than the other guy's shot. Say, for instance, he's going to punch you, you maybe just get your hand up to take the shot, or if he's going to kick you, you might step into the kick and strike him as he lands. So basically, it's a skill to work on, because a lot of guys will block, or a lot of guys will step away or try to evade as the shot comes. If you can get your head to follow your body and take it and step into the shot, you basically are breaking the guy's stride, because if he steps in and he's trying to hit you on the extension or the end of his shot, or on that snap of his shot, then he's going to hurt you. But say, for instance, he roundhouse kicks you and you step right into him, the chances of him hitting you with the full force of that roundhouse is going to be lower. If you step well enough, you can be close enough to basically catch or take the shot and give a nice one back. So you might find that guys do it in the Muay Thai quite often. They will step into a strike, like a roundhouse or something, get inside the guy's space and elbow and knee him. And then obviously, if you think about it, that the knee and the elbow strike is going to be harder than a roundhouse, because the roundhouse needs more space. The roundhouse, would say, is your long shot, and the knee is your medium, and the elbow is short. Yeah, this is generalization, because you can get very close and knee still. You can get medium and still elbow, but preferably if you want a knee and you want to make it a nice one, get medium range, so you have some travel time and then you just right through the guy. So I try to tell my guys, knee through the body. You must feel the spine when you knee. Obviously, it seems like a crazy explanation, but what you're trying to get the guy to remember is that you must go through. You must hit through the person. So if you kick, you want to kick that leg, not just touch the leg and bring it back. You want to kick through the limb of the opponent. So on today's episode, I'm just going to be chatting about what happens before the fight, what happens at the back there, because the crowd sees the final. They don't always see the build up or the training and things like that. If you're from the gym that the student is from or the fighter is from, then you obviously see all the work they put in. So my students and Ezra's teammates and coaches will see all that work they put in, and then when they come to the fight, they're going to know what work they put in, and things like that. So a lot of the time that makes for a great supporter, because they've been watching your journey. So they're not just there and like, oh, I like this fighter because he looks cool, or I like this fighter. They like, well, I like my fighter because I saw what he did to get to where he needs to be. So obviously how it works is the two coaches or the promoter, depending, most times in SA, the promoter is the coach as well, because his gym is putting on the event. So this event is Mad Fit Productions, and they are a gym out in Cape Town, which is, quite a few of the gyms in Cape Town are pretty close to each other. Like 10 minutes drive in any direction towards the gyms is you're going to find the next gym. So it's quite a community. As we are all fighters, we're trying to do the best. So sometimes, you don't have the coaches are all working together, but on the fight day, it's kind of like, okay, look here, this is my fighter, that's your fighter, now we're going to fight. Afterwards, we all good, but during, things get riled up, and you shout that the other fighter's tired, and then the other coach shouts that your fighter's tired. So you're trying to get your fighter to win. Obviously, things go silly sometimes, but you try to be as sportsmanlike as you can. Stay humble, because Muay Thai is a very humbling sport. You take one elbow to the head or one knee to the body, or take one roundhouse to the thigh. You're going to be humbled, because you're going to know that it's a serious thing. So with the Muay Thai is action based. The students will see each other training, and they might even assist each other training. basically one person might be the boxing bag and the fighter might be able to just work shots on them, or another fighter might be, okay, you're going to do X because you're good at this, or the fighter might defend himself and let other students throw shots at him. He catches or blocks and so on and so on. So in Muay Thai, you are allowed to catch the kicks, the knees, as long as the leg is off the ground. So say, for instance, if you are familiar with Jiu-Jitsu or any form of a takedown in MMA, you know you can take the guy's leg from the ground and lift him and put him on the ground. In the Muay Thai, you are not allowed to lift the guy's leg up off the ground. So if his foot is off the ground, or if he's holding maybe a block, or his teeps, or he roundhouse kicks, or he knees you, or any time his leg's off the ground, you are allowed to catch it. Okay? And I've mentioned this before, 2 seconds or 2 steps. 2 seconds is the best one to go with, because the 2-step rule sometimes gets a bit... it's a bit dodgy, because you can't always remember 2 steps, but the ref can count 2 seconds. Sometimes he might not see the 1 step or the 2 step and so on. The reason for that is because they don't want the guys lifting the leg and then driving the guy to the rope and trying to chuck him out the ring. It happens. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to throw each other out the ring, but it can happen. So the refs will count for 2 seconds and then stop the exchange, and if the other fighter decides, okay, look, he's going to go for it, then the ref will have to slow him down and say, hey, look here, you can't do that, and penalizations and point deductions come in, and so on and so on. So you have your fight. Once you have agreed to said fight, weight is decided right in the beginning. So our weight is 57, which means you cannot be above 57. Now, the weight classes are in Muay Thai, there's quite a few, because they have a very small gap between the different ones. So for myself, I fought at 2 different weight classes between different organizations have a different exact amount, but mine was basically like I could be over 82 point, say, 5 and 500 grams over to 87. That was my little range of fights. My other one was, you can be, again, it differs all the time, but around 79, 78 to not above 82.125. So there is that few grams. So say, for instance, Lakaya and his fighter comes in, maybe they come in 57.1, so 57.100 grams. There is a to the gram amount that the guy can come in as well. But most of the coaches and promoters, they just say 57, and that's the limit that he can come in. Obviously, you can't be too light. So if Lakaya or the Ezra came in at say 54, then that would not work out. They were underweight, and the fight can also be stopped depending on the promoter, depending on what fight it is. If it's like a title fight, they might say, look here, no, we're not accepting this. The guy's over or the guy's under. There could be an advantage to the one guy or a disadvantage to the other. As it is a fight, for me personally, it's the fairest thing that can be. If you don't let it go to the judges, the result is in your hands. No one can take it away from you if you knock the guy out. No one can take it away from you if you are the same weight. No one can say, no, that guy was heavier, you shouldn't have won the belt because you were heavier and you had an advantage, and so on. So when it comes to a high-level fight, sometimes the fight will be called off, or the guy will get penalized some of his purse, or sometimes it's happened that if the one guy wins the fight, he can't take the belt because he was heavier, and it gets a bit complicated. But for the amateur guys, we have a little more leeway, because the coaches might and the fighter might be like, look, it's fine, we'll take that he's 100 grams over. But the promoter, and mostly the promoter and the coach, he has the right to say, look here, you can't be over. You have to be exact weight, because they've already finalized that in the beginning. So now you come overweight, and it's happened to us before. The guy was like, hey, this is the weight class 82. We go to the scale, The guy's 89, 90 kilograms. He says the morning of the fight he was 82, which if you know anything about weights or fighting or anything like that, you know that's a blatant lie, because if you were 82 in the morning, then you know eating, no drinking, no nothing until the fight or until the weigh-in. So we, because it was an amateur fight, I was the coach, I spoke to the promoter and the other coach, and I said, look here, we don't mind. I spoke to my fighter, he's fine with the weight increase. He will still be his weight, obviously, and then they turned it into a catch weight fight. So that can happen sometimes, but you don't want to do that if it's a championship fight, because that extra 10 kilograms, if that guy is super fit and he's 10 kilograms heavier, just go pick up 10 kilograms and feel the weight of that. And now that's how much more power and weight he has on him. So when my fighter hits him, he's got an extra 10 kilograms to hold him sturdy. And when that guy hits, he's got an extra 10 kilograms behind his strike. So, it can get a bit dicey. Okay, so then you don't see much of each other for the 6 weeks of the training camp. You'll have information you need to send. HIV test, it has to be negative. Hepatitis B has to be negative. You can get an immunity injections. Basically, you just have the immunity for the hepatitis B, and it has a shelf life of 5 to 10 years, depending on which one. I can't be completely sure which one it is, but you basically have, over a 3-month period, you have a few shots of the immunity, and you get a certificate from the pathcare or from the doctor saying, look, you've got the immunities. Then it becomes a little less expensive when you fight, so you don't have to get the hepatitis B test the whole time. The HIV test is a lot easier, as in it's cheaper. Some clinics do on the first day, or the first person to get tested, it's free. If you go to a lot of clinics in and around South Africa, they do free tests, but they also are a bit suspicious to write there that you're negative, because they don't want to be held responsible for if at a later stage it does show up and then you are, and then you're like, well, this person said I wasn't, and so on and so on. So they get a bit iffy. So it's best to go and pay for it. Sometimes when I went, most times the person didn't understand what I was getting the test for, and they wanted to give a little bit of they wanted to chat to me, and they wanted to see some things, and I'll try to explain to them, hey, I don't need it, no, I don't have it, I just need the test to state. And then they will write there at the time of the test and the date and everything, and they'll say you were negative, because they're a bit iffy about it. But that's how it goes. If you haven't experienced it, then I'm glad for you, but I experienced once or twice or 3 times where they wanted to give me some counseling. I was like, look, I don't need counseling. I'm a fighter. I have to be tested to be able to fight, so on and so on. So sometimes better to go to the pathcare. You can't get them. There's no immunity per se. I stand corrected, but there's no certificate that you can get that states that you're HIV negative, and you can just keep that for years. The hepatitis B, you can. HIV, you have to go, I think it's every 6 months. So if your test is older than 6 months, you have to go get a new one and be tested. So during the 6 weeks of the camp, the coaches and the admin sides, they send in information around, but it's not much talking. Once you get to the fight week, the training changes a bit. It slows down in the intensity. At the 2-3 week mark, you don't want to be doing any heavy lifting. So maybe the 3rd last week or the 4th week, you will do your last strength training. Then that next week, it's just about cardio and pad work and working your moves. No heavy sparring, because if the guy gets hurt or if he gets banged in the head and he gets a concussion, he can't fight. So you don't want that. So the guys are they're not fragile, but they are a fragile item. If they get hurt, then all of it, the work goes for nothing. So we'll have the guys tone down the sparring, and it becomes very technical. You also keep your fighter away from any egomaniacs, because those guys will still try to beat your fighter in training, which is pathetic, because just jump into a fight, man. Don't try to hurt the fighter now. He's not testing his skills. He is just cleaning up his skills. He should have already been tested earlier in the camp. So then you get to like the fight week. The Friday you do the weigh-in. So you usually go in the evening to the gym or to the area where you're going to weigh in. It will be an official weigh-in. So there will be an official writing down the weights. There will be someone checking the scale. You can get an independent person. You can request an independent person to do and check the scale. But personally, as long as the coaches are there and they see, hey, you 57, and you're good, that's all good. I don't think it's necessary to make it such a scene unless the guy's overweight. If you both jump on the scale and you're in weight, then there's, I don't think there's any need to be so forceful and be like, hey, you got to have an independent person. You can't do it. It just makes for more stress on both party sides, because now the promoter must get someone specially in that has nothing to do with the fights and read out the weights and so on and so on. Because a lot of people don't want the actual promoter to be reading out or being in charge of the scale, because he's going to, they want it to be like as by the book or as fair as they think they can get it. But to me personally, I think it's just silly. If you agreed on the weight, you're a coach and or promoter, you should be honest enough to make sure that your guy's in weight. If he's not, then I don't want to work with you, because the spirit of Muay Thai is lost. It's I feel like the Muay Thai is very humbling, and you must have a good heart, as in you don't want to cheat anyone. You have your guys train, you have your guys weigh in. You don't want to cheat the other guy, because if that other fighter gets hurt seriously because of something with weight or some other issue, then his career is going to be less, or his career is going to be shorter, and so on and so on. So I like to keep it as fair as possible. No funny business, no coming in there and trying to like make a scene and oh no, I can't believe your scale's off, it's off. Just use multiple scales. Make sure your guy is just on the weight or just under. Don't be silly. Like, you can check it before the time. You can make sure that he's exactly weight. You're gonna have to check his weight often the last week. So what I do is almost every day I check my guy's weight, especially if they're just close to or just under. I like to say, okay, look here, you must eat a little more today or not eat on the way in. Some guys just don't eat the whole day. If they got like a kilogram, 1.5 kilograms, depending on their body type, they can lose that just by not eating. Some people have to sauna on the day of weigh-in, so imagine not eating and going to a sauna and cycling and sweating, but now you haven't eaten anything. And you can't drink any water as well, because even water can make you a few grams heavier and then you're over. So the weigh-in comes, you'll have photographers, you'll have other fighters and coaches. So the weigh-in's like tense. You can feel the tenseness in the air, because basically all that's there is people that haven't eaten, people that have trained super hard, coaches that are sizing up the other guy and checking for anything that they might do that is not allowed. You got the promoter there that's also the coach of some of the fighters. So, and you got the doctor, everything. It's a tense situation. So there's usually no spectators allowed, because the spectators make a scene and they make a noise, and the fighters and the promoters and coaches know what they need to do, and they want to get it done so that guys can eat. And any stupid spectators doing something silly will rile up the crowd in the wrong way, because they've already got guys that are aggro and haven't eaten and they want to eat. So you want to get the things done as quick as possible. So sometimes what they'll do for the guys that are really needed to drop, they might weigh in first, and then the guys that are able to eat or able to or not have to drop so much weight, they will weigh in at a later stage, the same night, but just after everyone else. And then some, like for me personally, when I was training and fighting, the one of my teammates, he actually had to drop every single fight. Like he really had issues dropping, but you do what you have to do to get to the weight you need to be in. So I was asked to not sit at the table with said fighter, because I was able to eat anything, and it was just like it's not unsportsmanlike conduct, but it's your teammate. You don't want to do stuff that upsets each other and stuff. You're supposed to be teammates and you help each other out and so on and so on. So you weigh in. The doctor will check you. So they put a strap on your arm. They check your heart rate. They check your blood pressure. Obviously, your heart rate might be a bit higher than usual because now it's fight day. There's a bit of tenseness in the air. If you haven't eaten, your blood pressure could be up or down. So the doctor will basically he will take this into consideration and then be able to go from there. The doctor will also ask if you've had any concussions lately, if you have any injuries, and so on and so on. Now look here, you can definitely lie. Okay, you can lie that you've had a concussion. You can lie that you haven't had any injuries, so on and so on. But the doctor, he's there to check you. So if he sees something and it's very suspicious, they probably will maybe see if you're injured or something. But it's very easy to say, no, I haven't had concussions. No, I haven't had anything broken. No, anything like that. Most times that conversation is had with the coach and the fighter. Depending on the coach and the fighter, sometimes the guys might say yes or no, but for the most part, I try to keep as honest as possible. If my guys had an injury, then we might not have the fight. If the guy's been concussed, again, it depends on the fighter. If he says, hey, I still want to fight, or he says, hey, I don't, he's all wonky and the doctor can see it, the doctor can pull the fight on the way in. So still stress even up until the day before the fight. Okay, so you do your weigh-ins, people take photos, you face off with each other. Now in the Muay Thai, again, always come back to the Muay Thai, because if you go look, there's other guys that on the day of weigh-in, they literally allow the guys to swing for each other. Like they step back almost. And usually when you're doing the face-off, you're looking for anyone to do something silly. If the fighters start to get too close, you're going to separate them, because the next day is the fight. You don't want anything to happen. Some people want to see that a little bit bang in before, which is crazy. For me personally, on the Muay Thai part, I've only had good times with face-offs. You face each other, you might say something, you'll shake hands, but it's very respectful. I always tell my guys, do not touch the other guy. Don't touch him, don't push him, don't do anything. If you're going to shake his hand, that's about as far as you can. Don't flinch, because remember, you're both training to fight. That is what you have been trained to react to, someone moving fast at you. So be civil and get the weigh-in done. If you want to make a noise or say something to the guy, that's your prerogative. But I always tell my guys, be respectful. We are Muay Thai practitioners. There's a lot of respect in the Muay Thai. You bow to your opponent. You do a Y crew in the ring. You are respectful to each other. I believe in sportsmanlike conduct. So I try to keep my guys on the straight and narrow. Some guys don't want to do it, and I've had to speak to some of my fighters beforehand, but most times it's been fine. As I say, speaking to them, because they'll say, oh, they want to do this, and I'm like, hey, no, you're not fucking doing nothing. You're going to shut your mouth, you're going to weigh in, you're going to face the guy, shake his hand, and then you're going to fuck off. Tomorrow you can have all the ill intent you want, but you ain't going to do anything on the weigh-in day, because it comes back to the coach then. So if your fighter makes a trouble, photos are taken, videos taken, everyone's like, oh, do you see that fighter from that gym? He did X, Y, and Z. And I have no time for that, because you guys can bang each other literally with every part of your body on the day of the fight. You don't need a bang before. You can just chill. Okay? Shake each other's hands. Sometimes guys get like very aggressive. And when I say guys, I'm talking about fighters in general. I'm not talking about any specific gender. I'm talking about fighters. They get all riled up. It's the day before. Their emotions are going. Some people feel nervous. Some people are super aggro and what. So, it depends on the fighter. But if the coach is coaching the guys, usually what I see is that the fighter or the students reflect the coach. So if the coach is humble, the fighters are humble. If the coach is a bit cocky, the fighters are a bit more cocky, and so on, so on. if you haven't seen it, I've seen it with fighters. You can see gyms that are maybe super cocky or not doing illegal stuff, but they're in the gray area. They're going towards illegal moves or so on, so on. So keep it civil, guys. Shake each other's hand. Look, if you're going to bang each other before, cool. But personally, the fight's going to be over then. The promoter might be like, look, you guys aren't fighting. Your guy did this. They might penalize you if you had a contract with money involved. They might penalize you for your purse. They might not let you fight again because now they see what you do before the fight. They might be like, look, we're not letting you fight. We're not going to use your fighter. We're not going to use your gym. And then that's where it comes back to the coach and his gym. Now he can't have any fighters because one of his stupid fighters decided to swing in the weigh-in. Okay, so you weigh in, you go to the doctor checks you, and then basically you go home. What I like to do with my guys is I try to have I call it the last supper because it's like the last one before you fight, but it's my joke for the guys. Try to go have a meal together at least, and it doesn't have to be talking about the fight. Preferably you don't want to talk about the fight. You want to try to get the fighter's mind off it. Go have a meal with some other teammates, support each other, have a fresh meal because you've been fighting. Literally the day of the weigh-in is almost it's like the second lightest day of the training because weight's been lifted, you've made your weight. Okay, now everything's in. You can do whatever. A lot of guys will go and eat and they have a system to build up their weight again. They might come in 5 kilograms more or so on and so on. I again like to stick close to the weight you're at because maybe you put on too much weight and now your stomach's full and you're not used to all that food. Your stomach's a bit iffy and you go to the fight day and you could feel a bit nostalgic and stuff like that. So you don't want to stuff yourself. But that's personal preference. For my guys, I don't like to let them get too much heavier than what they weighed in at. I like to get them rehydrated. I like to get food in them and so on. But, it's all personal preference and all comes down to the coach and the fighter. The fighter can still do anything he wants, even though the coach might have said something. Okay, so there you got your fight. The Saturday or the day of the fight comes in. You jump in to the gym or the stadium that you're going to fight at. You arrive quite a few hours beforehand. So it's like the recent event I went to. The officials will arrive at 3 o'clock. The fighters will arrive at, say, 3:30, and the event starts at 5 or 6. So you want to give quite a bit of time to prep because the fighter arrives. You might have a little bit of a chat beforehand. Usually you don't. You have this on the weigh-in day. You warm up. People are doing their things. If you've got a few fighters, then obviously you need to warm up different guys and you want to be ready to go. So what the promoter will do is they'll make sure that at least 3 fights are ready because they have a time frame to sit to work on. They can't have the spectators just sitting there like 30 minutes between each fight. The spectators will never come back. So you try to have it boom, boom, boom. First fight out, as soon as the first fight's done, it's probably 5 to 8 minutes between. And nothing more. You don't want to have too much of a gap. So you have your guys ready, 1, 2, 3 fights, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You have all 3, next 3, next 3, next 3. Also, a lot of the time, the promoters will give you the gloves and the shin pads and stuff, and they only have so many. So there's only enough for, say, in total 6 people to have pads. So as soon as the one fight's done, the 4th guy will take the pads and so on and so on. And depending on the fight, amateur, pro, or pro-am, you'll have the different pads. You'll have for a certain weight class if you're really light. Again, I'm not sure because it differs sometimes between promotions, but if you are over X weight, you will take a 10-ounce glove. If you're under X weight, you take an 8-ounce glove. Now, if you've ever checked these gloves, 8-ounce gloves are like fucking mitts. They look like mitts that on your hand. They don't look like they're actually boxing gloves because you're so used to this big glove. Now you got this light thing. There's the weight especially is more to do with the padding inside the glove. So the 16 ounce has a lot more padding. When you hit the guy, there's more padding between you, your knuckle, and the guy's body or head. With the 8 ounce, there's less padding between you, your knuckle, and the opponent. So, it can make for quite an exciting change of pace if you have a lighter glove. But don't train with a light glove. It's silly because, one, your hand takes a lot of the impact, and because there's less padding. So if you hit something too hard, or not, look at this, there is too hard, you can hurt your hands. But if you hit constantly hard and your hand hurts, then by the time the fight comes, you might not be able to punch as hard as possible. So have a heavier glove, or a glove that is more padded. Make sure your hands are wrapped correctly. Okay, we go to the fight. You'll be sitting at the back. It's a lot. Again, there's tension because sometimes there's no split between you and your opponent. You can see him in the corner. He sees you in the corner. You warm up. You do pad work. He hears you do pad work. You hear him doing pad work. You can hear his coaches talking to him, and so on and so on. It's a mental game. The physical game comes when you jump into the ring and you start swinging. The mental game is usually from day one of the camp, and it builds up to the weigh-in, and then the climax is just before you jump into that ring. So you got to keep yourself in the zone or calm, whatever you do. Some people listen to music, some people sleep. You might find that amazing that people sleep, but if you're a fighter, you got a different mentality. You already accepted that you're going to get hit. You've accepted whatever the outcome is. If it's a Muay Thai fight, a boxing, a wrestling, a jiu-jitsu competition, you've accepted the outcome. If you haven't, you should start thinking about what's the outcome of this. I could get knocked out. I could knock the other guy out. But you got to just visualize it, because you don't want anything to happen in the fight that you're like, oh, I can't believe this happened. And then it throws your whole mind off. Your whole game's gone. So you want to have a good mindset. So they also don't allow any spectators in the back when they are doing the warm-ups, because again, the spectators want to take photos. They're excited. They're like, oh, well, do this. They might get into the fighter's head when the coach has been coaching the guy to do a certain thing, and then the spectator might come in and be like, yo, you're going to head kick him, you're going to knock him out. And then literally the last thing that person hears is head kick, and then they go into the fight and then they just try to head kick each other, or they might hear, okay, you're going to knock him out, and then they lose their whole game plan. They go in, they silly business and what. But, each to their own. You have to build up. So if it's your first fights, your mind might be all over the show. If it is your 10th, 17th, 20th fight, you're going to be a little bit calmer because you know the whole process and so on. So it's very important for the amateur guys to have their coaches with them, have a good support team. Don't have people that weren't there during the journey, because they're going to come in and they're going to say X, Y, and Z, and they're going to get in the fighter's head, or they're going to be like, oh, why are you throwing that like that? Or why are you doing this like that? That's going to mess the fighter up. Now he's going to have doubt in his head. He needs to go in there with the full realization that he can win. If he just focuses and does what he needs to do, he can win. And then it just comes down to who wants it more. So two fighters going in head to head, they both want it. Who wants it more? I'm tired. Are you still going to fight? I got a knock. Am I going to show that I got knocked? Am I going to be intimidated by this other fighter? So on, so on. Okay, so there's a lot of a mental game in the fight. Some people think it's just savages swinging for each other. And I can tell you right now that I'd rather be a savage in that ring and swing for each other and know what I'm capable of. And then when I'm out the ring, I'm a civilized person. But then be like civilized all the time, and when fight situation happens, I just lose my shit, or when it's pressure's on, I lose my shit. So I really respect fighters because of what they have to go through and what they do go through with people just judging on them because they are fighters. People are like, oh, you aggressive person, and if a fight starts, they will maybe blame the fighter instead of seeing, well, this person just swung at him and he was just defending himself, so on and so on. So sometimes I always tell my guys, hey, listen here, this is how it works. Please don't do these silly things and think that this person he's a savage or something. They have accepted that they're going to fight. So in actual fact, you should give them some respect. They know what's going to happen, and they can get hit and they can hit someone. They still trained for it. Their mental game has to be impeccable, because they know at the 2nd of September at 6 o'clock, I'm going to touch gloves with someone that's also trained hard. He's not going to go down with one shot, and we're going to have to bang it out. And that's what I find the most respectful for the fighter that's jumping in there. He knows all of this stuff, and he still accepts it. So for me personally, I really, really respect all fighters. Win, lose, draw, prepped well or not, when you jump in that ring, I have the utmost respect for you and your opponent, because it's not easy getting in there. It's difficult. So then what will happen is you chill in, and I think the next like little hot jumping up there is when they call your name and say, come stand here, you're about to go into the fight. So you walk in, you'll have a mongkong on your head, which is the traditional Thai attire for the pre-fight rituals, the Y crew, the walk out, so on, the get in the ring. You get in the ring a specific way depending on your level. You might go under the ropes, you might go through the middle, or over the top, depending on your level of experience or what fighter you are and what gender. There's specific rules for things like that. You'll have your mongkong put back on your head. You will jump into the ring. You will bow to the four corners, show respect. You'll do the Y crew, which is, if you translate it, it translates to a dance or a respect shown towards your teacher and your gym. Some gyms have a specific Y crew that okay, that person is doing this, and you can see the other person doing that one. The beginning part of the Y crew is basically you will circle the middle or the outer ring. Before that you start the music, which is, some people are like, what the hell is this music? But for me personally, I actually enjoy it. Like when I hear it, I'm like, oh, it's a beat, man. You will go from your corner, you'll seal the ring. So you take your hand and you run it across the rope. You get to the corner, you might bow, so on. You run to the next one, you bow at each corner. Then you circle the ring 3 times, and then you'll start your Y crew, which is basically the first part of the ritual that all fighters have to do. So you'll go down on your knees. You might be facing your corner, or you might just face one section of the ring. You might go down on your knees, and you might look like you're sweeping your hands in front of you and pulling your arms back towards you. So basically, you're bringing in the energy of for the fight and in the ring and all the tradition of the Muay Thai. You'll also shows respect to your coach that has taught you. The Ram Muay part is usually the part that you see the Thais do or the pros do, where they do a little extravagant dance. They're showing off their balance. If you look at it as well, a lot of it is they stretching their body. Sometimes the guys will wait for the Y crew Ram Muay to see what the fighter's balance looks like. If you all wobbly and you looking all like not there altogether, they might be like, oh, that guy doesn't look like he's got it. His balance is off. The other guy might be doing very extravagant dance moves and his balance is almost perfect. And then you'll be like, okay, this guy, I want to, put my money on him or so on and so on. Once you do the Y crew, if you're a pro, you can do the Ram Muay. The amateurs aren't allowed to do it because some of them can last up to 10 minutes. So you can't have everyone doing this 10-minute Y crew Ram Muay dance. And, so the amateurs do just the beginning part where they seal the ring and they will go to their corner, do their first part of the ritual. You'll stand up, you will go back to your corner. The ref will call you to the center. He will say, fighters, you might say, what I do is I say, fighters, I want you to obey my instructions at all times. I want you to protect yourselves at all times. if you touch gloves. Okay, so it's not if you want to touch gloves, they must touch gloves. Again, it's Muay Thai. Even if the guys don't like each other, it's not like you see in other fights where they just don't touch gloves. That's pathetic. You can hate the guy all you want, but you touch his glove in the Muay Thai. So you touch gloves, you go back to your corners. The cornerman or the coaches will give you the last final words, or put some Vaseline on, gum guard, some water. You'll take your Mong off, you'll check that everything's ready to go, and then the ref will say, fighters, are you ready? Judges, because the judges obviously need to be ready. And then when you say judges, then the timekeeper is also going to put in the time there. So you go in, put the time there, get the judges ready, and then the fighters, either the judge, the ref might say, hey guys, come to the center, or he might just say chok. Chok is to fight, and then you can either run from your corner, or you're already in the middle, and you start your brawl. And then the ref takes his step back, and he just watches, make sure, one, that you're not doing anything illegal. Before you do the illegal move, like he can see it coming, he can stop the fight. Or if you do an illegal move, he will stop and then penalize you or give you a warning. Preferably, you want your fighters to know all the rules that they can and can't do, because when they start to do silly rules, then the ref's going to get in their head and be like, you can't do that. And now maybe that's a move that they just done the whole time. And now they're like, oh, can't do this. And so it's best to teach your guys the rules of the Muay Thai fight as well, because there's certain moves that you can't do, obviously. You can't low blow. You can't do any judo throws, which means turning your hip into the person. You can only throw your opponent over the inside of your thighs. So up until your knee, you can throw them through or over the inside. You can use your legs to throw them over. You can't lift them off the ground and throw them, okay, because that's a slam, which is illegal. You cannot lift their leg up off the ground if it's not up, and you can't throw them out the ring, okay? When you are going for the sweep, you also can't hook the leg. So a lot of guys get that wrong. They go for the sweep, and they'll put their leg around their opponent's leg and try to throw them. One, that causes severe injuries because the other fighter is not used to that. He might step wrong. Two, there's no hooking of the legs. If the guy is about to throw you and you want to defend it, you can do a stall or a lock maneuver where you hold the guy close to you and you just brace, and then the ref will come and stop it. That is allowed, but you can't hook his leg and then throw him. You can only do a slight hook it or a slight turn of the body if you are about to be thrown and you're trying to defend it. That's fine, because you aren't trying to throw the guy. If you do that and you hook his leg and you stall in and then you throw him, the ref will penalize you because it's an illegal move. So what you don't want to do is, as soon as you turn your hip halfway, so the side of your body faces your opponent's front of his body, the ref should step in and stop it, because the turn in is you turn in to throw him. Sometimes it happens, it's in the motion, the ref's watching the clinch, and all of a sudden the guy gets thrown. Then the ref has to step in and warn the guy, and if he does it continuously, it might start with a warning, and it might get into a point deduction, and then if it's really severe, he will get a disqualification. The ref is there to uphold the rules. He's not there to make sure you follow the rules. Oh, that sounded strange. He's there to make sure you follow the rules and uphold the rules. But if you do illegal stuff and before the ref can stop it, or you constantly do the illegal moves even though the ref has told you, then he has the job to disqualify you. So it's a thin rope. The ref has to make sure that the fight is being run correctly. No one's doing moves that's illegal, but also he has to warn and then point deduction, and then only severe cases he has to disqualify, because you want the fight to go on. The promoters, everyone's put the fight on. A disqualification doesn't look good, because now there's no winners. It means the matchup is a lost matchup, because now no one wins. It goes to a disqualification. If there's a belt on the line and there's a disqualification, then the other person might not get the belt, or the champion might keep his belt because maybe he did the illegal move, or if you did the illegal move to the champion, you might hurt him. Maybe he can't fight again, so on and so on. Yeah, so it's quite involved. All fights are. For me personally, I enjoy the Muay Thai because there's so many different forms of striking, and there's so many things you can do to each other. To try to hurt each other. That's your whole point. Muay Thai is pain, okay, and that you're trying to inflict pain on your opponent. Um, I'm going to be looking at getting a few guests. I'm hopefully going to look to get one of my fighters or people from the gym and so on and so on. But as we build up, guys, we are going to have these guests, and there might be quite a few less solo ones. So for the solo ones, I like to break down a few things and add like pause in between, give you a few details, because a lot of spectators don't understand all the rules or don't understand all the things that's happened, and then sometimes they boo or sometimes they like get upset. They're like, oh, ref, or oh, this, and I can't believe that person won. But the more you know about the sport, the more you can enjoy it, the more you can understand why the rules are the rules. Because if you want to do judo, go do judo. If you want to do takedowns, then you have to go do MMA or jiu-jitsu or so on and so on. If you want to do Muay Thai, you got to be on your feet at all times when you want to fight, and so on. Other than that, guys, I'll be signing off, and we're looking forward to this fight this weekend. I will be back maybe before, but probably after the fight to give you a breakdown of what happened and keep the journey going. Get hopefully some fighters, coaches, anyone to do really with the health and fitness industry. The podcast is obviously going to be mostly about that because that's what I'm involved in. But I'm open to having anyone because having a conversation with someone like this it works. You don't always get to have conversations with someone, so it's nice to have someone sit down, we do a dive into their life, or they want to talk about something specific. Fighters aren't one-dimensional. If you think that, then you don't know any fighters. Yes, they can be aggressive and they can fight often, and they might love to fight, but they definitely are multi-dimensional. Okay, you can do quite a few things. If you can fight, then everything else in your life gets toned down. Like when things happen or it's stressful, you're like, well, I can handle this. I've had a fight. Or, maybe your job's stressful and the fighting's actually your leisure time. You never know. There's people doing all things out there in this world. So guys, stay safe. Again, find yourself a place to train. You don't have to do Muay Thai. You don't have to do weights. You can do 30 minutes a day. Okay, no, they obviously is people that want to do more. You can't fault them because they're not going to fault you for doing light work. Okay, I'll never fault someone if I see someone training 30 minutes a day or just at least trying to better themselves in the training. You can't fault them. I don't judge them, but I do try to give people advice. Like you need to do something. You hear them like maybe complaining or they're aggressive or they're upset the whole time. Take that and put it in some weights, or take that and go for a walk, or take that and walk your dog, or take that and do your thing. Take it as far as you want to, and don't let anyone stop you from doing it because their opinion is just that. It's just an opinion. You can't allow people's opinion to stop you from doing what you feel you want to do. Look here, even if it's shit, like if this podcast never takes off, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. I enjoy doing this. It's for the one person that listens and has a better understanding of, say, Muay Thai or health and fitness. Even myself, I'm a coach and I've been doing this for a long time. I always get new stretches, new exercises, new this, new that. Always trying to better myself. For the people that, there's only going to be the guys that are hating on you that are jealous or they can't do it themselves. And by all means, those people can please find me and I'll assist you. I'll help you. I'll train you. I will help you if you need advice with training X, Y, Z. If you're injured, everyone isn't have the full ability of their body, but a little bit of training is good mentally. You got to be careful out there, guys. This is Jandre signing off, and hopefully, I keep saying hopefully because I'm excited to have a guest. I really am. Talking about yourself is, you can only go so far. I only have so many stories. So that's why for the podcast now, I'm trying to just jump into one thing and go very detailed into it, so that I can at least have something to talk about. Otherwise, I'm not going to have anything to talk about in these solo podcasts. So guys, have a good one. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. If you hear this before the 2nd of November 2023, 2nd of November, 2nd of September, now coming. Try to get yourself a ticket for the Mad Fit promotions. There's going to be boxing, Muay Thai, and MMA fights, guys. This is something for everyone. Any lover of fighting, you're going to get a nice variety. And they've got themselves a new spot. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see the setup. I'm always excited for the fight, and it's hard work, guys. The coaches also take strain during the camp, and then after the fight, during the fight, it's like a weight's lifted, because all your work's done, and now you just get to enjoy it. Okay, guys, I'll see you. Cheers.